Hello, look who I am joined by today. The one and only gold medalist, Connor Fields. Well, I guess you're not the only gold medalist, but you're the only gold medalist I know. You're the only gold medalist that I think is a Golden Knights fan, or at least that I'm aware of. Maybe Agassi. I don't know. You
Yeah,
know
I
any
mean, there's two individual Olympic gold medalists from Las Vegas. It's me and Andre. So at most, there's two fans of the Golden Knights.
And we have one of them. I like to say you put the gold in Golden Knights. I like to think that the only reason that they named the team Golden Knights instead of Silver Knights was because you won the gold medal right before they named the team. That's my belief. I don't know. We'll have to see. First off, what is your schedule looking like? Because Tokyo is like right there.
Yeah, it's obviously a bit of a different scenario than most other Olympics. We have a very specific set of days that we're allowed to arrive before the event begins, and then we have to be gone within 48 hours of post-event. We have to be gone, just with COVID and everything that's going on. So we leave July 21st. Our event is the 28th and 29th, or 29th and 30th. I should probably confirm. And then we come home August 1st.
I feel like you should know. You should know.
So
days, right? There's a prelim and then there's the final.
Yeah. So day one will be the heats or the quarterfinals. There'll be 4 heats of 6 riders, with the top 4 from each heat advancing on to the next day. The next day there will be 2 heats of 8 riders, with the top 4 of each advancing to the final. Now the heats and the semifinals are run in a best of 3 series, but then the finals is one race, just one for the money. So I guess the hockey equivalent would be, 3-game series all through the playoffs, and then the finals is just the 1 game.
So is it total time over the 3 heats, or is it?
You get 1 point for first, 2 for second, 3 for third, and so on down. Lowest points get it.
Gotcha. And is that
tiebreaker is the 3rd round?
Is that how they normally do it in like world championships and whatnot?
No. So the Olympics is only has 24 athletes competing in our event. Just with quotas and number of athletes that can compete, it's very low. So that would only be enough to have 3 rounds of racing, and that's not enough for TV to make a good product. Where typically, like the World Championships, which we have next month or in August, there'll be 96 athletes. So for that one, there's more rounds to get down to the final 8. So they don't need to run it as a best of 3 series for all of them. It would be, very limited TV if we had 3 races total instead of now we have 7. And as well as that, like, their thought process is over a series, the athletes that should make the finals will, because you can kind of have a bad race, or if something goes wrong, you have a mechanical, you can make it back. Whereas if it was just one time, literally anything can happen, especially in my event. We have no lines, no barriers, essentially no rules. So by doing that, they kind of guarantee that the riders that should make it, make it.
In many ways, that seems like should be a good thing for you. I mean, you're reigning champ.
I'd prefer it. I like my chances over a best of 3 series. And the truth be told, if you're not in the top half, the top 4 after the best of 3 series, then you probably don't deserve it anyway.
Right.
So that's kind of my thought process on the whole thing.
Kind of how we have to feel a little bit after losing to Montreal.
Yeah, you had 7 games. You've got to win 4, so it's not like you can just get lucky once.
Kind of sucked a few times in the middle there. That one game kind of sucked, and then they stole it. I mean, looking back, I wish it was only the first game, but if it was only the first game, then they would have lost to Minnesota, and well, that would have been even more of a disaster. And heck, I don't know what we would have been talking about. Let me throw a VGK one at you.
Yep.
When was the first moment you heard of the Golden Knights coming, or like just the idea in general, or like maybe like when did you hear that Foley existed?
I don't remember exactly when I found out about, when the Golden Knights were coming, but I do remember when I learned or read the news that they announced that the expansion team was going to be in Vegas. It was going to be hockey. And I just remember thinking to myself, cool. And I pulled up Google, hockey rules, I knew nothing about it. I'd watched one game my whole life. It was the gold medal game, 2010 Olympics, which is probably a great game to watch if you're going to pick one.
Yep.
But I just remember I'm from Vegas. I've lived there my whole life. So I was just excited to get a team. And then I think the big kicker for me is I got invited to like some of like the press and some of the media stuff because they didn't have a team yet. Yep. So they wanted athletes from Vegas there. And when I was kind of seeing just how big of a deal it was and how cool it was, that was kind of when I was like, all right, I'm in. And then I went to my first game. And then after that, it was all in.
What was the first game?
It wasn't the first game, but it was one of like the first 5.
That first homestand.
Yeah. And I remember just thinking it was the coolest thing ever. And I've told this story before, but I remember there's a delayed penalty and we were playing a Canadian team. I don't remember which one. There's a delayed penalty and it was like second period and Fleury's skating off the bench. I stood up. I'm like, what are you doing? Like, what's going on? Get back in your goal. And the nice people next to me kind of laughed. And there was every opportunity for them to make fun of it. Like, this is why Vegas shouldn't have a team or whatever. But they explained to me what was going on. And, they're very nice. And then they spent the rest of the game kind of pointing out different things that, a newbie wouldn't know. So it was kind of a cool experience. And then now when we're watching games, I can pick up, that was a bad shift or like a bad changeover or, quit dumping it in and chasing it, let's just pass it around a little bit, so it's cool to kind of learn a little bit more about that.
That's going to be all of us, myself included, as we watch BMX. We're going to be like, God damn it, Connor, what are you doing in this? Hopefully that doesn't happen. We're going to get, obviously it's all going to go perfectly well.
I will say, though, our sport is very simple to understand. There is a starting line, there is a finish line, and the first person across the finish line wins. Pretty much there's 2 rules. 1, you can't punch or kick, and 2, you got to stay within the white lines. Outside of that, it's full contact. You can do whatever you want, and it's very clear this person wins, this person loses.
I mean, that's kind of hockey, as I always say, put the thing in the thing.
Put the thing in the thing, and then why are they calling icing now, and why are they waving it now? And hey man, that wasn't offsides. The ref sucks.
All of that's unimportant. Just get the thing in the thing. The Golden Knights didn't do enough of that, unfortunately. How devastated were you when this thing ended this time around?
I was bummed. It's funny. A lot of people are saying like, "Oh, Vegas needs to suffer. They need to go through years of suffering." We're almost suffering worse, I think, because we're so close every time and not being able to seal the deal. I think that's from personal experience. It's a lot easier if you just go get smoked and you're not even in the top 10 and you just know you got smoked.
Right.
It's a lot worse when you get 4th or 5th. That's a lot harder because you were good enough to get in the mix, but you couldn't quite finish the job. For me, I'm at training camp in Houston and we had games every other day and I was looking forward to it. It was a big deal. I have training partners. One is from Japan, one's from Australia. They knew nothing about hockey and they were locked in watching it with me. And, it became every other night. We would, at the end of the training day, just be sitting on the couch, screaming at the TV. You can ask them. I was going nuts. And then when it ended, I was super bummed. And I didn't even have any interest in watching the finals because I was still kind of mad.
It sucked anyway.
Yeah. I saw a funny meme. It was like, that horse drawing where it starts perfectly and then it fades to like a stick figure. And it was like the start of the playoffs, the end of the playoffs.
Yeah. Well, it was. I mean, like, especially for Vegas, it was like that Colorado series. And you look back and like, that was the series. That was the one we've been looking forward to. That's the one we've been talking about for 4, 5, 6 months since we figured out what it was going to be. And then for them to win that, it was like, that was it. And then it was supposed to be, wipe through Montreal, and that didn't happen. I don't know. There's a lot of story. Speaking of coming in 5th or 6th, your first Olympics, you came in 7th, right? Do I have that accurate?
You do.
How different, I guess, is this Olympics from heading in from the last 2? The first time is obviously your first time. You have no idea what to expect. The second time, I've come up short before, but I can do this. Now you've been there. Like, how different is this for you?
Well, this Olympics in particular is extremely different just with all of the outside factors going on. And like, I have no idea what it's going to be like. I don't particularly think it's going to be a lot of fun. Whereas the last few Olympics were a lot of fun. I think it's going to be very much like room, track, and that. Obviously there's, I always like to say there's different types of athletes. There's the athletes that just making the Olympics was their goal. Like that was it. They know that they don't have a shot to medal. And if you look at every sport, there's there has to be people that fill the blocks, fill the games, right? Fill the starting line. And just they're there, and you can tell they're those types of athletes because they're just walking around having the time of their life, and they don't look stressed out at all because they know, like, best case scenario, they're getting 12th, so they're all good.
Awesome.
And then you've got maybe 7 to 10 athletes, and maybe less in some sports, that think they have a realistic shot at getting a medal, and anything less than a medal is a disappointment. And they're the ones that are very stressed out. You can tell they're there taking it seriously. I would lump myself in that category. I'm not going there to try to get a participation certificate, which is what they give out from fourth on. But at the end of the day, for me, my goal has always been just to do my absolute best, train and prepare as best as I can, compete to the best of my abilities, leave no stone unturned. And ultimately, if I do my best, and at the end of the day, I can look in the mirror and know I did my best, I might, if I win, if I get fifth, I might be happy. I might not be happy, but at least I could be, like, satisfied and be like, I did everything I could. Because in London, when I got seventh, I didn't feel like I did my best. And that was the hardest thing, was feeling like I left some on the table. But with that said, I've always believed that if I go out and I do 100% of what I'm capable of, I have a chance to win any race that I'm in. So you do the first one, and then the second one kind of takes care of itself.
When you went the first time in London, you thought you weren't one of the people that were just pumped to be there. You thought you could win, right?
Oh yeah, I mean, I was the number one seed in the final, and for all intents and purposes, I kind of should have won. But I just didn't handle the moment. And, looking back, I'd never been in that position before. Hockey equivalent, I guess, would be like a first time goalie getting thrown in game 7 of the finals. And, I had no experience of being in a high pressure situation like that. Whereas 4 years later, I had raced another 4 world championships. I had raced another bunch of high pressure races to where I had a little bit more experience in that moment. And the experience just says, do the same thing that you always do. Don't change anything, right? Which sounds really easy in theory, but when you're 19 years old and you're sitting as the number one seed in the Olympic final, and you're thinking, like, I'm going to win the Olympics, I'm going to be rich, I'm going to be famous, this is going to be awesome. It's a little bit of a hard thing to do. And I just got ahead of myself there. But it's funny. In a lot of media, I remember talking, this is last year, pre-COVID, talking about how I had so much experience. I've been pro for 10 years. I've been to 2 Olympics. Like, I've done it all. And then, global pandemic, year postponement, everything changes, and now it's all new again. So
yeah, but that's everybody, that was one of the things I was wondering is, like, how different is the field from 2012 to 16 to now? Like, is it the same dudes?
I would say the majority of the guys here in 2020 or 2021 are going to be the same or similar to 12 and 16. There was a spurt of about 3 or 4 years, my age, and then a couple years above and a couple years below, that produced a ton of top athletes. Where I think you'll see a huge turnover in our sport is the next Olympics, because my generation will age out and we will be replaced by the next generation. And now what kind of happened is our generation was so good that we pushed out the generation above us, but we haven't yet been pushed out. And it's coming, that's the circle of life in sport. Like, you can't go forever.
Unless you're Tom Brady.
What's up?
Unless you're Tom Brady.
But for us, we haven't really been pushed out. There's been a couple of guys who have cracked kind of into the mix, but the same, out of the top 10 guys in 2012, 7 or 8 of them are still the same top 10 guys. But next time around, I think you'll see a completely different field.
So you're coming back. You've won the gold medal in 16. What has happened in between? Not pandemic, but like on the track. Like, how successful have you been in between? How likely do you feel it is that you can do this again?
2017, I had an amazing year. I won I got second in the World Cup Series, just missed the title by a few points. And then I won the domestic championship in America, the USA Series. And then, everything was ticking on over. 2018, I actually had a TBI. I hit my head real hard in a race. I got a flat tire, kind of threw me on the ground, and I actually had a seizure on the track. Ooh. And it took me quite a while to kind of recover from that physically, but more so mentally, to be ready, because mentally, we kind of have to have the same mentality of an MMA fighter, where this sounds bad, but like you could die at any moment, right? Like what we do is crazy. And if you're not willing to take that risk, then you're going to run into trouble. And so it took me a while to kind of get over that. So 2018 was kind of a wash for me. It took me almost a whole year to get back. But come 2019, things started tracking really, really well again. And I won the U.S. domestic championship again. I got my title back in 2019. 2020, the season started off great. I won the first World Cup of the year. I won the national championship. I was the world ranked #1. And then COVID hit. So I had kind of gotten over the injury. Everything had been tracking really nicely. And then COVID hit. And I haven't raced internationally since then. And I haven't seen a lot of the guys that we're going to be racing just because Europe, Australia, like a lot of the guys we race, we can't go there. We can't get together. So it's a lot of unknowns going into this one. But I think that it'll be the same kind of cast of characters that you could expect. And I think that I've got a shot, if I go and execute and I perform. But you got to line them up and race, and that's why we do it.
What's the pressure like compared to the last one you had not come in with a gold medal? Is the pressure higher because you're defending the title? Is the pressure less because worst case you leave and you still got one?
Right. I would say less. I would say less overall, just because, like you said, like I'll always be an Olympic gold medalist forever. But with that said, I've had a good one and I've had a bad one, and I know which one was more fun. And I really don't want to come home empty-handed again. I know how much fun it was to come home and celebrate for 3 months, right? But at the end of the day, kind of going back to what I said, like if I do everything I possibly can and I just get beat by someone who's flat out better, I'll shake their hand and say, good job. Yeah. And while I may be disappointed, I'll be satisfied. So I'm just trying to do my best and fight for it and give it everything I have and not feel like I left anything on the table. And if I do that, then I'll be okay.
I'm here to rally the troops in Vegas. We're going to be watching. We're going to be cheering, and I don't know how much that actually matters. We like to think it matters when we cheer for games.
I mean, maybe they announced yesterday there's no fans at the Olympics, so maybe I'll be able to hear you guys from there.
You'll know that we're behind you. You'll know the entire SinBin crew is here. The entire Golden Knights fan base is there. Let's do this. Let me ask you a couple of Golden Knights questions. Who's your favorite player?
Mark Stone.
Is it close? Is anyone else in the mix?
For a long time, it was Fleury, and I still like Fleury just because he has fun. Like as an athlete, I can respect that he can enjoy what he's doing and play at a high level. I really enjoy watching William Karlsson play. He's very crafty and creative, and he's always looking for these passes that are really kind of unique. I wish he'd pull the trigger more and shoot a bit more. But overall, I like Stone just because you can visibly see outside of that series with Montreal, you can visibly see how hard he's playing at all times and how much he cares. And it's fun to watch.
Have you ever given another competitor a wet willy in the middle of a race?
I have not. We wear helmets that cover our ears. So we
can. Hockey players, but Fleury pulled it off once.
Yeah, I've never given anyone a wet willy.
You're going to need to try and do that. Maybe in like the third race of the first group. See if you could sneak that in there, be on the same level as Fleury. I think that might be good. Do you have a favorite goal, a Golden Knights goal that's your favorite goal?
Ooh. I don't have one that sticks out in particular. I would say the one that won the Stanley Cup, but we didn't ever do that yet.
Yeah, well, I mean, there was one that brought him to the Western Conference Final, Reeves with the tip. I'll tell you my favorite, which is actually weird because they didn't win the game, and that is Marchessault scoring in the not a major game in Game 7 in San Jose after they had given up the 4. They were going to lose that game in regulation, and Marshy scores, and that was wild. Yeah. That's my favorite one ever. Favorite game? Do you have a favorite game? Going a little broader.
I mean, I think Game 7 win against Minnesota was fun to watch. Wow. Just it's hard to top a Game 7 in that atmosphere. You know, I have a favorite series that I can remember loving to watch, and that was the LA series year 1. I don't think we've ever looked more dominant and just cruise to an easy win when we swept them. And I think, I don't remember exactly. I think they were still like kind of coming off of their championship years. They still had a lot of the same core. They were still like, people were predicting that they were a shot to win. And we just looked like we were playing a college team. And I just remember loving that. And I had some friends who were Kings fans, so it was fun to talk smack to them.
It was awesome. And they like, it was the Kings will still tell you like, we lost by 1 every single game. No, every game Golden Knights dominated. I don't want to hear it. Jonathan Quick was amazing. I don't want to hear that. I don't want to hear any of that. All right. Favorite player that's no longer on the Golden Knights that was previously on the Golden Knights?
You know, and he got hurt a lot, but when he was healthy, I liked watching Howler play. He was always kind of exciting. And I felt like had he avoided some of those injuries, maybe he'd still be there. And I think he would have done really well, like paired up with Tuck or something like that on that line. And they could have kind of grown as a unit.
Fingers crossed he's coming back. He still lives in Vegas. He wants to come back. I think there's still a chance.
He plays for the Canes now, right?
Well, he moved to Florida, and then there was Nashville. He's been all over the place. I guess he was he most recently on the Canes. Yeah, it's been a mess, but I think he's an unrestricted free agent this summer, so it's possible again.
Well, I mean, it's totally cool to be over cap, right? So they should just sign him anyway.
When you're in Houston, well, yeah, that's the new thing. Well, get Eichel over the cap, doesn't matter. Just keep him out the entire season. We'll have him play in the playoffs. All right, give me the best restaurant in Vegas. Or like right now, you're not in Vegas.
No, I'm trying to think of it. This is gonna bother me. It's in the Cosmo.
Oh, I was there last night.
It's a speakeasy.
Yes,
it's like
I was literally there last night.
You go through like the pawn shop, and then you go in there. What is it?
Beauty in Essex.
Yes, that's my favorite restaurant.
I was literally there last night. I thought you would say that. I don't know why I had a feeling that I was going to say that. I had Mexican street corn ravioli. Spectacular. Yes, Beauty in Essex. All right. How do we watch the races?
I don't know. They'll be on either on NBC or one of the channels that carries the games. But I do know that the app should have all of the events of the entire Olympics available to watch. So if it's not on TV, then you can pull it on that. I don't know if they're going to be showing live or what they're going to do. I know it's always been a complaint in the States where NBC shows everything delayed and people already know what happened. And they also will only show events that Americans do well in, which is a bit of a, America loves a winner. Like our culture, we love the winners. But I wish they would do a better job of showing all the events, because my favorite part about watching the Olympics is watching things you wouldn't normally watch.
Right.
I want to go nuts for the badminton guy who's going for the win. I want to be screaming at my TV as the women's kayak team races down the river. Like that's what makes the Olympics fun. So I hope they show, but I know nothing about that. That's way over my head. I just try to
know what time of the day, like over there, you're supposed to be racing, or have they not even
between like 10 and 11:30 a.m., which I think is like prime time in America.
Nice. Okay. Well, I'll tell you this. I am going to make sure everyone knows. We're tweeting it out every race. I'll have it up. We'll make sure everybody knows. You are the man. Go get us the gold. Put the gold in Golden Knights. That's why they're the Golden Knights. We want 2. Does Agassi have 2?
I don't know, but he's got a lot more championship titles in Wimbledon than I do.
Well, that's not what we're going for. That's not what we want. I want that second gold. I want you to come back here wearing 2 golds. It's going to be amazing. We are all rooting for you. We're cheering for you. Let's go. Go get them.
Thank you very much. Go Golden Knights.